My name is Ulrike Felt. I'm Professor of Science and Technology Studies at the University of Vienna. And science communication, and maybe in particular, all kinds of participatory forms of engagement with science, are part of my everyday work. Actually, I decided to speak in my keynote about disagreements, because I do think in science communication, we very often focus on how to reach agreement and how to align views and how to explain how things are. And I think we can learn a lot from looking at how disagreements work, because in moments of disagreement, we need to make explicit what we generally keep for ourselves. And I think this helps us to better understand the other sides and to grasp why certain things are not taken up or understood differently and interpreted. So I will be speaking a bit about to develop a love for disagreements in a way, and to understand them as particular places of learning and of understanding each other. I personally think that conferences are spaces of encounter. And actually, science communication researchers and practitioners do, interestingly, not encounter each other so often. Researchers have their research conferences and their meetings and their ways of expressing themselves, and practitioners are concerned with other things, like how do they move through the field, how to move through their professional environments and succeed in these professional environments. And I think to see these two sides and to reflect on them, to understand the different ways of storytelling, and we all do some form of storytelling within science and beyond, and maybe we can learn from each other in such settings. Oh, I'm looking most forward to meeting people. I think it's the diversity of thinkings and backgrounds and where people come from, and they bring that into one space over a short period in time. I always think this is very rewarding, and in a way or another always helps also developing your own kind of vision of things and how you want to advance, etc. So I think this is this I'm looking forward to be inspired and to have fun. I distinctly remember one moment in a discussion group. It was about food and nanotechnologies. And around the table, there were 6 people from very, very different backgrounds. Among them, one woman that was a just retired kindergarten teacher. And the other one was a kind of more business type person with a biologic background and an organic beekeeper as a hobby. And the discussion went around these nanofood things, and it was a card-based discussion method. And there was one card where there was a suggestion how nanotechnologies could bring certain elements like vitamins and others into food without changing their taste. And the kindergarten teacher very quickly picked out that card, and she said she would love to have that. That would be something real improvement, because she describes the chores she had about feeding children vegetables, and that the parents wanted that the children ate vegetables, but they would not. And if she would be sure that they have all the vitamins and all the kind of other elements children need, then she would feed them whatever they like to eat. And this would be much less conflictual and be also for her morally okay. And the beekeeper gets really angry with her, and he nearly insults her a bit, saying how naive she can be, and she doesn't understand the science, and she doesn't understand how a human body is, and this is not just Lego bricks, food is much more complex, etc. So he gives her a real lecture in science. And at one point in time, she kind of responds very strongly to him and says, look, I don't think that you understand everyday life, and you do not understand what it means to make choices when you have to bring children during the day, feed them, make them happy, etc. And she thinks this balances off any concerns he has about food. There was this card, and he got on and gone, and she went back, and that went on for quite a while. And at one moment in time, she raises the card and says, look, this is about choice, and I chose this position. And in that sense, I thought how nice this was, how empowering the card was for her, that this is something that legitimately in the setting of this discussion, that was a position that she could take. And I found that very interesting to see how power differentials matter. And he could overpower her definitely argumentatively, but she kind of had the life story with her. And then she had the card as an ally in a way, which she could raise. And that was a very funny moment for me when she picked it up and said to him, kind of, shut up in a way. I mean, I have the right, this is my democratic, in a way, she says, this is my democratic right to have a different position. And this was kind of inspiring in many ways, methodologically inspiring, but also to see that she felt that this opened a space for her to describe her life and to give a place to her choices. And I think this is very important when we try to engage with, and science communication is for me a form of engagement, or should for me always be a form of engagement with the other and to get to know the other. And I think I got to know her a bit better by listening to her and to see how she kind of builds her own rational argument. And I thought that was so powerful. And I thought this was for me a very enlightening moment, because she defended her position so nicely on the background of expectations, etc., and was arguing that if it was just an ideological differences between him and her, and he could not argue that this was against health or anything like that, she would uphold her position. And this taught me a lot about how our way of living creeps into the judgments we have about things, and whether or not we can afford to believe in certain kinds of things or not. And so, as this case was not a case about whether this was dangerous for people's health or not, she said, I would go for the artificial, as he would call it, and he would say this is totally unacceptable, this is against the basic values. And so they were battling over values and not over knowledge, and that was the interesting thing. And so this taught me that it is so important to consider the social environments in which science communication takes place, and that disagreement is something where we can learn about how assessments of science and technology are actually strongly dependent on the life experiences people make, and not just on the kind of scientific rationale that people are kind of confronted with. And that was for me a kind of key moment of realization how important that is.